Hello! I guess you were thinking, where is Camila? And I'm so glad to be back with you tonight. Thank you for joining us. I actually wanted to know how your day was. It's Mother's Day. I'm not sure if it's Mother's Day all around the world, but in Australia, we celebrated Mother's Day today. And although it's Sunday already here, back in my country where my mother is living now, Brazil, it's still Saturday night when it was morning time here. So I have to say that my day didn't start the most positive because I missed my mom, and yeah, it was Mother's Day. I should be happy because I'm a mother and I had my daughter there next to me, but I had all these conflicted feelings coming to my mind, and I want to share with you that sometimes it's okay. And when we feel like we wake up and we have sort of these iffy feelings, but guess what? We can choose what are the thoughts that we want to contemplate and to give room in our mind. And I have to say that there's always something that triggers, or there's something that maybe it's a bird that is singing, or in my case this morning, it was my daughter Katerina. She helped to break that chain of negative thoughts, and she came to me during breakfast and she sat close to me and she put her hands on my legs and she said, "Mommy, you're beautiful. I love you." And so I was really, really happy about that. And that really changed my day. On top of that, she said, "Let's go for a walk." And we went for a walk on the beach. And after that, seeing blue and green and just, listening to the birds, my mood changed for the rest of the day. So I wanted to tell you that I didn't make these choices of thinking positively or choosing to go for a walk or believing and listening to my daughter's 2.5-year-old comment, but I actually learned these strategies from Dr. Darren Morton, and I'm so happy he's going to be here with us live tonight, sharing a lot more of the strategies and about the 7 dimensions of wellness. But before that, we have an amazing story of somebody that took the risk, that actually took time to invest and to dare to try the whole person health approach. I'm talking about Karen Waite. She's a lovely lady that lives down the Central Coast, and she's here to share with us today of her whole person health experience and journey, and I hope that inspires you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hello,
my
Karen.
name is Karen, and the lovely Renee asked if I would be happy to share just briefly my experience of Sozo Health. So I was one of the fortunate to attend the very first Sozo Health retreat in August last year. The reason I attended the health retreat was because I suffer major depression, and I have been suffering it for about major depression the last 15 years of my life. During that time, I have been on some pretty strong medication, including antidepressants, lithium and Seroquel, just to try and keep my mood normal. What's normal? However, I've been able to wean off the Seroquel and the lithium, and then by the time I attended Sozo Health, I was on high doses of antidepressants. I just want to say, from the moment I arrived to the moment I left, Sozo Health personnel were just beautiful, caring, professional. I can't fault at all the care that was given me while I was there. They started us off by giving us a mini exercise test to do to see just exactly how unfit we were. I was, oh man, that was a wake-up call. I think the biggest wake-up call I got was when they worked out my metabolic age was 66 and I was actually 55. I thought, wow, I've lost 11 years. My body thinks it's 66. So I just embraced every day I was there and and took on board everything that they were sharing with us health-wise, all the knowledge. The lectures were fantastic. I think I knew some things, and I knew exercise was what was good for when you've got depression. I knew that, but and I know that I've always known that, and through the years I've tried exercising, but because of my anxiety with my depression, it just gets too much and I can't cope and I give up. But I've stuck with it since August, and I'm still going. Even through COVID, I'm still going. I went back to the gym just a couple of days a week, plus doing walking. At the moment I'm just walking, but once COVID's finished I'll be back at the gym. I think it's very isolating, depression, because you just withdraw. I withdrew a lot. I was only working 2 days a week because that's all I could cope with, and it would take me the rest of the time to just get over working, dealing with people, and having to get my strength back up to face it all again. So I was very isolating. I didn't go out much. Severed ties with people through the gym that I had made really good friendships with, but I just kept to myself. So the depression really is debilitating. How did I get my depression? I thought it was through genetics, because it does run in my family, and then something triggered it during my life, quite severely. A big thing happened in my life, and it triggered enough that I was on these major medications, and in your mind, the negative thoughts. I thought I was doomed to be suffering this for the rest of my life. But they taught me I have these little neuro pathways in my brain, and I can teach them positive thoughts, not just negative thoughts. So when I get these negative thoughts, I have to, and it's effort. It's not easy to do, and it's still tiring, and you get down and despondent still. But I've got power, empowered. Sozo have empowered me to put these in place, what I have learned. And I think what I really resonated with was that every health professional at Sozo, they shared their own story. They didn't just have the knowledge because they had learnt through university or whatever they had studied, where they studied. Their life journey themselves, they had been through something horrendous, some story themselves to tell. So that really resonated with me, and that's what really got me through, and I can't believe the journey I've gone through. I've gone through a big weight loss journey since I've lost 12.3 kilos since attending Sozo Health. Thank you to them. And it just makes a big difference on my depression. I've been able to cut my antidepressants right down, and I'm coping. I'm coping really well at the moment, and that's not saying that if anybody's listening here and they suffer major depression that you've got to give up your antidepressants. I just started slowly weaning down because I wanted to see if I could. Whether or not one day I'll have to go back on a lighter dose, I don't know, but I've got that empowerment and I'm working through that, and I feel so blessed and so grateful to Sozo Health. Thank you so much, Sozo Health. And if anyone's listening and resonating to this, please give them a go and get your family on board to give you support and to encourage you to attend, because they're life-changing. It's life-changing for me. Thank you so much for listening to my talk. I wish I could share it with you more, but I have to say goodbye and wish you all the best in your journey, whatever it may be. I wish you well. Thank you so much for listening to me. Good morning, my name is...
What an amazing story of complete healing. I had myself the privilege to meet Karen when she came to the health retreat. And it just has been a big reward to me to see the big change. When I saw Karen about 3 months ago and learned about her story after Sozo, and it was about after 6 months that she had been on the Sozo health retreat, and she shared a little bit of what you just heard, I was blown away because not only I could see her story in terms of of what she was sharing, but I could see the physical changes. I could see the spark in her eyes. I could see a zest for life that wasn't there before. So I hope that you're inspired today to start looking at what is that dimension of wellness that you're going to start working on tonight. And make a decision to get started. It's very important to make a decision, just like Karen made a decision to go to the health retreat. It was hard for her to get there, but she did it. And now she's just rejoicing and she's enjoying life again. So let's go to introduce our guest speaker for the day. I am super excited, and I'm grateful because we're going to have Dr. Darren Morton with us. And look, he's special to me. He's one of the professors and lecturer. I'm currently enrolled in a graduate diploma on lifestyle medicine, and he's the coordinator of the program. But more than that, Dr. Darren Morton, he's a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Education, Business and Science. He has a PhD in human physiology and is passionate about the emerging field of lifestyle medicine. Darren is one of the key presenters for a worldwide lifestyle intervention called CHIP, the Complete Health Improvement Program, and is researching the effectiveness of lifestyle intervention targeting chronic diseases through the Lifestyle Research Center at Avondale. Now, Dr. Darren Morton is very special, and there are many people that are fans, and I know that if you're watching us today, you know what I'm talking about. He's an amazing presenter. Even my 2.5-year-old watches his videos with me, and she absolutely loves it. So I hope that you enjoy this with me tonight. Grab a cuppa and enjoy his presentation. Welcome, Darren. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Camilla. Nice to be with you all on this Sunday evening. I'm sure that you're probably in your home somewhere like I am, sitting at my table. Probably much rather be with you in person, but this has to be the next best thing. So anyway, I want to start by telling you a story. A number of years ago now, I was actually one of the speakers at the North New South Wales Big Camp. So for those who are not familiar with how the Big Camp thing works, you've got to experience this at least once in your lifetime. It's actually my favourite week of the year. But anyway, what happens is we go and there's this big event. There are these big tents where they've got speakers talking about different topics. It has a bit more of a spiritual focus to it. Anyway, I was the speaker for one of these tents one year. And anyway, as I was walking through this campground, on the Friday afternoon before the first presentation. It goes for about a week. And I was just going over my notes for that presentation that evening. And I hear two ladies talking, and they're sitting outside their tent. And I hear one of them say, "Oh, which tent are you going to go to? Which speaker are you going to go to listen to?" Anyway, I probably at that point in time should have tuned out, but I didn't. And anyway, I sort of slowed down a little bit as I was walking past, and I've tuned in, and I've heard one lady say to the other lady say to her, "Well, I'm not quite sure yet, but I know which one I'm not going to." And I thought, "Oh, this is getting dangerous now." But anyway, I kept eavesdropping, and then I heard the other lady say, "Oh, who's that? Which one aren't you definitely going to?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm not going to that Darren Morton guy." And I'm just like, "Oh, I haven't even started. This is the first presentation tonight. I haven't even started, and I have people not wanting to come to my sessions." Anyway, then I heard this lady say, "Oh, why is that?" And then this second lady replied back. She said, "He's that health dude. You know, he talks about health, and so I'm not going there because he's just going to make me feel guilty." And anyway, that's always played on my mind. I've always thought a lot about that. And in fact, I wasn't even in those series of presentations even talking about sort of physical health as such. But it always puzzled me. Why is it that for so many of us, and you know, I know that there are many Adventists out there, for many Adventists, there is guilt associated with this whole idea of health. I mean, the Adventist Church has had a very long history engaging with health and wellbeing. It's been part of its sort of core identity since its inception, pretty much 150 years ago. But even within Adventist circles and certainly beyond, often when we talk about health, for many people, it conjures, feelings of, it's like, it's not like, yay, vitality. It's more, I feel guilty all of a sudden. And I wonder why that is. And I want to propose that maybe there's two reasons for that. The first one is that maybe we've put a negative spin on this. Maybe we've got the idea that health is about a whole lot of things that I should be doing that I'm not, and a whole lot of things that I probably shouldn't be doing that I am. And so there's that guilt aspect to it, that it's very much, it's a rules-based thing. This is what you should be doing, and you're not following through. That's one thing. Maybe we've put a negative spin on this. The second thing is that maybe we've actually got a false view of what health, what wellness really truly represents. And so I want to address them tonight. I want to talk about maybe we need to start putting a positive spin on the way we approach health and wellness. And maybe we need to rethink what health and wellness actually is. You see, I have come to understand that often when people talk about health, their mind skips to certain things. And that is that dirty word, diet. In fact, Michael Greger, who's I'm a big fan of, he's written a book called How Not to Diet. And I really like that. And diet, no one here, very few of us like the idea of dieting. And yet that's what it conjures. So when we talk about health, it's eating stuff that I probably don't want to eat. And it's not eating stuff that I really probably do want to eat. And then the other probably big aspect of what people think of as health that springs to mind is exercise. And look, I love exercise, so I declare that I am, probably strange and in the minority. But what happens is for many of us, our concept of, say, exercise is painful and sweaty. And we know that, humans are motivated by pleasure and pain, but the pain part, they don't move towards that, they move away from that. And so is it any wonder when we have these sorts of notions, things like diets, things like exercise, get hot and sweaty and hurts, then all of a sudden we have this negative bent about what health might mean. What I want to suggest to you is that health is a lot bigger than that. And certainly wellness is a lot bigger than just what you eat or don't eat and how you move or how you don't move. Health as we understand it, wellness as we understand it, actually has numerous dimensions. And that's what I want to briefly. I want to introduce to you what we're calling the 7 dimensions of wellness. And you'll notice that all of these 7 dimensions, the name that we've attributed to them is a positive approach. It's a positive name. It's you'll see as we get one. So I want to introduce you to, drum roll please, the 7 dimensions of wellness, and we'll touch on them very briefly. So number 1, physically energized. Let's just get this out of the way. We've already introduced the whole idea of dieting and exercising, but what we know is that it's really difficult to have really positive health and wellness without a sense of feeling physically energized. Okay. Now, what that means is then we know there are many things that we can do with our body and put into our bodies that influence that in a very profound way. Certainly, physical activity is one of them. Right? So, as I said, I'm a big fan. Because you're an enlightened audience, I can talk very candidly and use the word exercise. But when I talk to community groups nowadays, typically I don't use that word. Because, as I said, most people have these very negative connotations. It's diet, or it's painful and it's sweaty. And most people don't like the idea of pain. So what we need to move away from is recognizing that you don't have to do that in order to be physically energized, for it to contribute to, feeling good in yourself in terms of your energy levels. What we know is that just moving, right? And I'm actually normally at work, I was going to duck over to my office to do this. I actually have a standing bench there. In one of the other rooms, I have a standing bench too. At the moment, I'm sitting, and we know that sitting isn't as good as standing. We know that walking is better than standing. So what we know is the more dynamically you can move, you don't have to exercise. It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't. The more dynamically that you can move, the more physically energized you will be, right? So we need to start thinking this in a positive way. It doesn't have to be big, hard, and painful. Same goes with food. So under this physical energized category, this physical energized dimension. Yeah, we have things like physical activity. We have food. We know, I actually try not nowadays to tell people what they're eating wrong, because most of us know that. Most of us, when you're lifting a Tim Tam to your mouth, and look, I'm not downing Tim Tams, from time to time, they're not a bad thing. But, we know that they're not physically energizing. They're not, well, maybe in the very short term they might be. It might be a comfort food for just a moment. But we know that in the long term and in a sustained way, they don't contribute to our physical vitality. Where other foods that do, and the science behind this is very powerful. We now know that food feeds your mood, right? And there's a very strong link between that. Food feeds your energy levels, right? And there's, once again, very powerful link behind that. And what we're discovering, and this is really interesting, as I actually come from an Adventist background, and it fascinates me that we've always had a very strong push for plant-based foods, for putting a plant slant to your diet, even so much as being vegetarian. And what's fascinating to me is that wasn't trendy for many, many years. And it's only very recently, in fact, I was fascinated to learn that Hungry Jack's now has 2 vegan burger options. Right? Everyone's catching up with the idea that putting a plant slant to your diet, increasing the amount of whole plant-based foods that you consume is really good for your body, and it's actually really good for your brain as well. So it improves your physical vitality, you feel more physically energized, as well as emotionally as well. So food, physical activity, sleep. We need to talk about sleep more. We actually live in a society where compared to people living about 100 years ago, we probably get sort of 1 to 2 hours less sleep, because we have that artificial light. We have the ability to flick the light switch. Thanks for nothing, Thomas Edison. Well, no, thanks for a lot, but it actually did a whole lot of damage to our sleep cycles as well. And what we know is that prioritizing sleep is very, very important for helping us to feel physically energized. So dimension number 1 of the 7 dimensions of wellness is that physical aspect, that being physically energized. And yet that's often where we finish. That's where people think, oh, health, diet, exercise. Yeah, it's an important part of it, a very important part of it. But wellness, right? Health and wellness in its big picture has more dimensions to that. Dimension number 1, physically energized. Dimension number 2 is emotionally thriving. When you talk about what well-being, how do you define well-being? And look, I don't want to get too sciencey for you. For those, I probably know many of you who are tuning in tonight, but I'm an associate professor at Avondale University College. I'm the director of the Lifestyle Medicine and Health Research Centre there. And we spend a lot of our time researching, studying well-being. And how do you define what well-being is? Well, at the heart of it, well-being is probably, this is how I like to define it, it's about feeling good and feeling good about life. Right? It has these 2 components to it. There's what we call, those 2 domains are sometimes referred to as hedonic well-being, right? And you've probably heard of hedonism and all the rest of it. And often we think, oh, that's terrible. Hedonic, to be hedonic, that's just self-serving and self, pleasing. Well, and that's true. There's ways that you can go about feeling good that don't serve you well, right? But there are a lot of things that you can do, right? And I'm talking things like we spoke about just a moment ago, being physically active, eating well, sleeping well. All of these are pathways to helping people feel good. Of course, there's a deeper element to wellbeing too. There's that hedonic aspect, feeling good, but then there's this other thing that we call this eudaimonic aspect to wellbeing, which is feeling good about life. And what we'll discover as we come through the dimensions in a moment is that it's some of the other dimensions of wellness that speak to that part about helping us to feel better, feel good about life. But anyway, if you look at the theme of that, how I've just defined wellbeing, feeling good and feeling good about life, you notice that feeling good is a recurring theme, right? Feeling good. We all want to feel good. Right? It was actually Anne Frank that once wrote that. She said, we all live with the desire to, right? She says our lives are all different and yet the same. We're on the same, common pursuit. And of course, we know, for those of us who come from a faith-based background, we know that that contributes very profoundly to that idea of feeling good and feeling good about life. And so here's the point. Yes, it's fantastic to be physically energized. Feels great to have that physical, but that's only one dimension to wellness. Another dimension is to feel emotionally thriving. In fact, it's the, I think it was the WHO, actually, the World Health Organization, had a quite insightful quote. They said, there's no health without mental health. And we know that today, mental health, many people are not emotionally thriving. And look, recognizing, of course, that we all do this, and this is probably an important thing to understand. There's not one person alive who is just like, up here, like a 10 out of 10 or 11 out of 10 on the feel-good scale, day in, day out, 24/7. That's just not real life. When Solomon said there's a time for everything, he said, there's a time to laugh, yeah, but there's also a time to cry. And so it's, our emotional life, it does this, even our health and well-being does that to a certain extent, and that's okay. That's appropriate. That's real life. But I do believe that most people, most of the time, instead of sort of oscillating here, can be sort of oscillating up here instead. And there are things that we can do to help do that. They come from all these dimensions of wellness. So dimension number one, physically energized. Dimension number two, emotionally thriving. Dimension number three, socially connected. We are designed to live in community. When researchers identify, what they define as the top 10% of happy people, and then look at what are the common elements in their life, what are the things that they have that are common to them all, what they tend to find is that they have robust, strong relationships. They're socially connected. And some of the studies coming through in this space are absolutely fascinating. There was one of the famous Framingham studies that they've been conducted for over 60 years now. They've actually looked at how social networks influence health and wellness within a given community. And this is what they find. It's fascinating. They actually find that, unremarkably, the emotional state, right, of people that you are connected with has a profound influence on your emotional state. And we know this innately. That when someone close to you is down, then you often go down with them. And if they're up, they will take you up with them as well. That's the beautiful aspect of it. We actually now know that obesity is socially contagious, right? Such that if someone in a social network, gains weight or loses weight, then people in their immediate circle will be influenced by that as well in terms of their weight status. It's very fascinating about this research. We actually found things like obesity are socially connected by 3 degrees. Right? So what it means is that the friends of friends' friends are influenced by someone in a social network. Right? This is just a remarkable thing. It just goes to demonstrate just how we're not islands. None of us are islands. We are socially connected. And so, in order to experience true, deep happiness, well-being, wellness, health, all those things, we actually need to go beyond just feeling physically energized. Yes, we need to be emotionally thriving, ideally, but we need to be socially connected. And for me, I actually find one of a great blessing is being part of a church community like this, where you have these connections, people you could call on, when in times that you need it. Martin Seligman, who's one of the fathers of the positive psychology space, he actually says that you've got good social network when you have people in your life that you could call at 3 a.m. if you needed them. And I think that's a really good surrogate, really good measure of, how socially connected am I? And how often do we get to engage with them? So the 7 dimensions of wellness: physically energized, emotionally thriving, socially connected. And then let's skip through a couple that often don't get given the attention they deserve. Next one, intellectually engaged. We all have a brain in here with a frontal cortex, and this higher brain that allows us to do some really, really complex stuff. Things like amoebas, right, and these sorts of organs. Right, humans, we're very unique in our ability to be able to think and rationalize and reason. And that's a unique capacity that we need to tend to. It's really interesting. One of the greatest challenges, in fact, facing our modern time. It's been said that the 20th century was the century of cardiovascular disease, the 21st century of neurodegeneration. And this is where we're seeing, the Alzheimer's with dementias coming through. And, we actually don't really have a lot of effective treatments for these kind of conditions. I love one of my colleagues that we sometimes work with is Associate Professor Ross Grant, based at the Australasian Research Institute at the Sydney Adventist Hospital. And I love, he does a lot of work looking at, neurodegeneration, what we can do to mitigate that. And one of his things, he says, when it comes to the brain, you use it or lose it, right? So it's so important, for us to be really flourishing in life, to be living our best life, to be intellectually engaged, right? Let's not forget about the brain. Don't forget about the brain. So physically energized, emotionally thriving, socially connected, intellectually engaged. And then we move on to another one that's often neglected is vocationally enriched. So I ask the question, how often do you do stuff that you just really, that lights you up, right? That you just do and enjoy for the sake of doing it? Now, hopefully, and the word vocationally, often people think, oh, that means, do I love my work and my job? And ideally, that would be a great thing, because given the fact that you probably spend, almost a third of your life at work, if you can have that going well for you and, being in a good spot in that space, it's really going to contribute to your health and wellness. We know that studies consistently show that. And I hope that's the case for you. I hope that you find the work that you do, you find truly engaging. And that's the word, engaging. There's quite a famous positive psychology researcher by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I think he's Polish. And he wrote the book called Flow. And he was the one that found that, people who spend a lot of their time really engaged in the things that they do, right? Enjoying the things they do. And, that flow is that you would have experienced it before. I certainly hope you have, and I hope even you experience it semi-regularly. Flow is the experience of sort of you're just so engrossed that time sort of warps a little bit, it might speed up or slow down, and you just do that thing because of no one has to force you or pay you. You just do it for the sake of it. That is a really positive pathway to health and wellness, to have more flow moments in your life. What I want to say to you, actually, what I'll just flesh out a little bit more. What we know when it comes to in your workplace and experience engagement and flow, it's not so much what you do that matters, right? So it doesn't matter if you are a cleaner or a teacher or an accountant or any of those things. What matters, it seems, is what it means to you. That becomes very, very important. So there's a great little story that's told. You may have heard of this one, but it's the man who walks into a quarry, and there are all these men, carving out these blocks, and then taking them over and putting them on this belt that's taking them away. And he walks up to one man. And he says to the man, he says, "Oh, excuse me." He said, "What are you guys doing here?" And the man is, not engaged, obviously, in this activity. And he looks up at the man. He goes, "Whoa, what sort of a question is that?" He says, "You've got eyes." He says, "Look." He says, "What we do is slave away here in the hot sun." He says, "We have to hew out these bricks and carry them over there. They weigh a ton. All right, open your eyes. You can see what we're doing." Anyway, the man's a bit puzzled by this, but then he looks over and he sees another gentleman. So he walks over to him and says, "Oh, excuse me." He said, "I'm wondering, so what is it exactly you're doing here?" And he says, what we do, we have to, cut out these bricks there. We carry them over. We put them there. Hey, look, you know what? It's a job, it pays the bills. Hey, if I work hard enough, might actually get in the office over there. It's air conditioned. That'd be a good thing." And then the man says, "Oh, okay." And then finally looks over and he sees this third man who is just meticulously smoothing off these blocks. And he walks over to the man. He says, "Oh, excuse me." He says, "I'm just wondering, what do you do?" And the man's also almost, distracted by this question. And he looks up at the man and he says, he says, "We're building a cathedral." For one man, the first man, it was just a job. Second guy, it was sort of a career. He had aspirations to go places. The third guy, That's calling. Right? And what we know is sense of calling, you know, particularly in their work environment, it makes a huge difference in ensuring that they're vocationally enriched. And so I hope that's for you. I hope that's the case for you. And look, obviously there is no job that every 24/7 everyone's like, yay, I just love every part of this. If you have, well, then that's fantastic. Do as much as you can to be in that place, as much as you can. But look, if that's not for you, if that doesn't describe your scenario and circumstances prevent you from making a change, then maybe you need to think about getting a really good hobby, you know, something that at least lights you up when you get to participate in it. So the 7 dimensions of wellness: physically energized, emotionally thriving, intellectually engaged. Oops, I skipped one. Socially connected, and then vocationally enriched. We have 2 to go. Here they come. Number 6, environmentally attuned. You know, what we know, and I find this a very fascinating space. It's interesting. I did a bit of a stock take. I turned 50 next month, and I was just thinking about all the sports that I participate in. I love a whole range of things, but you know, it started for me. I love to run and I love to ride and all these sorts of things. But for me, I was always into surfing, and my brother and I were just diehard surfers when we were young. And then I got into windsurfing, and then I got into hang gliding. And now at the moment it's kite surfing, but I love to go mountain bike riding, and I've got my ski that I get to go. You know what? For me, I've realised that not one of those activities have an engine, right? Except for my arms or my legs, and all of them happen in outdoor spaces. And I find for me, it's almost my life raft. You know, it's when I am sort of, well, life's a bit heavy, you know, and there's a lot of things going on. For me, being able to go and get into, you know, the great outdoors just changes everything. Right? There's something profoundly calming and connecting and restorative about the great outdoors. The great outdoors truly are great. And I have a saying. I say that the blue and green should often be seen. You know, the whole idea of blue spaces, green spaces, very, very good for our health and wellness. And it's interesting, the studies consistently are showing that. In fact, they now talk about it as vitamin N, vitamin nature. We know that when people, you know, get outside, particularly when they're very much in touch with nature, this is why gardening seems to be so great. It does things to you, even physiologically. There are changes, certainly psychologically, and for people's mental health, it's very, very pronounced. And what's interesting to me too is that what we're discovering is that there's this intimate connection between the health of people and the health of the planet. The two are connected. The two are intertwined. The things that cause the planet to suffer are the same things that cause humans to suffer, and vice versa. So, you know, there's a synergy here. We need to be more attuned, you know, to the environment about us and connected to that, environmentally attuned. Which brings us to our very last dimension of wellness. And I've saved this one for last because from my experience, to my mind, is probably the most important. I'm certain it is. And it's called spiritually empowered. You know, spiritually empowered, there is growing amount of evidence, many, you know, studies now showing the connection between spirituality, you know, people's sense of, you know, meaning and purpose and all of those things, and how they contribute to health and wellness. And what fascinates me, you know, because obviously I come from a Christian worldview, but a lot of the studies and a lot of the research in this space are actually emerging from secular circles, from secular psychology. And they're coming up with this same thing that, you know, for people to experience very deep levels of health and wellness, what they need is that spiritual empowerment. Positive psychology, Martin Seligman, who's, you know, considered one of the fathers of the positive psychology movement, he defines having a sense of meaning as this. He says it's about belonging to and serving something bigger than thyself, bigger than yourself. And I love that. I actually really like that definition. That whole idea that we as humans, right, it's for our best life, for our ultimate sort of health and wellness, we need that sense that we belong to and can serve something bigger than ourselves. And what fascinates me, particularly from a mental health perspective, we actually know that when people intentionally look outside themselves, when people get better at actually going, hey, I'm not going to focus on all of, what's going right or wrong for me, but I'm actually going to start to be intentional about helping to lift other people. Then what we know is this is one of the most ways for giving them a lift in their own right. We rise by lifting others. There's that old Quaker proverb that says, I'll lift thee and you'll lift me and we'll ascend together. And I think it's really powerful, that whole idea of, having a sense that you belong to and that you serve something bigger than yourself. From a secular point of view, they would say, belong to the local fire authority and contribute to your community in that way. And that's great. All of those things are fantastic. But what I can say, once again, from someone who comes from a Christian worldview, this whole idea that, we belong, to a deity, a God that actually really embraces us and loves us unconditionally. That there is a power that comes with that. And then the second part of that, this idea that he would actually have a purpose for us, right, to actually make an impact in some way. That's incredibly empowering. For me, it's really what gets me up in the morning. I love to be physically energized. I love when I'm emotionally thriving, when I'm socially, all of those things I love, but spiritually empowered. I think really we start to speak to the heart and the depths of what it really means to live well. So Martin Seligman, he says it's about meaning is about belonging to and serving something bigger than yourself. To conclude, Emily Estefani Smith actually has written a book recently where she's expanded on that, and I really like her definition too. She says, for people to discover real meaning in their life, that sense of being spiritually empowered, yes, we need a sense of belonging to, sense of belonging. Yes, we need a sense of purpose, and that comes through serving. But she says there are these two other things too. One, it's about storytelling. Right? And what she says there, storytelling is about recognizing that your story is something part of a much greater narrative. Right? And how does your story, your story as it's told, as it plays out, how does that fit into that? How does it contribute to that greater narrative that's occurring? And then the last thing that she says is that we need belonging. We need a sense of purpose, meaning, serving. We need a story, to belong to and contribute to. And then the last thing she says is we need a sense of transcendence. Right? And transcendence comes in different ways. For some people, it might come through natural environments, seeing that sunset and just being completely, in awe from that. For Christian folk or other religions, it might be worship moments or but that transcendence is incredibly powerful, and it fascinates me, that space, that those transcendent moments, what they do to our ultimate well-being, our ultimate sense of health and wellness. So, what is health and wellness? Well, it's more than what we eat and the way that we move. Yeah, they're part of it. They help us to be physically energized. But, in order for us to experience, this, and I know it's a cheesy way to say it, but to be really living our best life, right, we actually need a whole lot more than that. Probably we need to be ticking off 7 dimensions if we can. Physically energized, emotionally thriving, spiritually connected, intellectually engaged, vocationally enriched, environmentally attuned, and then that last one, spiritually empowered. And so, folks, I hope that's given you something to think about. Some thinking and about these things myself, and researching it, and not just for my own benefit. In fact, hopefully more so for the benefit of others. And that's what I'm wondering is maybe what space, what are those dimensions maybe you might give attention to, and what space might you be able to give someone else attention to lift them? We rise by lifting others. Thanks for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Dr. Darren Morton. It's been such a pleasure to hear you again, and we certainly appreciate it. It has been so good to be reminded of the 7 dimensions of wellness. But yesterday, I told you that you would be getting something for free. Actually, this whole week, it's going to be about free perks because we want you to do really well in your whole person health journey. So tonight, I'm going to tell you how you're going to get the first free gift. And that's you're going to have access to your personal wellness snapshot. How are you doing in these 7 dimensions of wellness? Maybe while Dr. Darren Morton was talking about it, you had a thought about perhaps some of the dimensions that you're doing really well. I know certainly the ones that I need to improve, and maybe you know as well. But what about having your personal health and wellness snapshot? So I want to offer this for free to you tonight. After this video, you're going to see a barcode that you can just photo and get access to this My Personal Wellness Snapshot, or you can just click on the link and you'll be able to get your personal wellness snapshot. And I hope you enjoy it. But it doesn't only last that. You're getting more than that. Throughout the end of this week, you will learn that one of the programs that Dr. Darren Morton was the engineering brain behind and created, it's based on his book, Live More Happy, and it's called Live More Project. The Live More Project is a 10-week long online course, and it's much better when you do as a group. So guess what? We're going to offer you the opportunity to join us at the end of the week, to join a group online and have access to this online project that will take 2 weeks, 10 weeks to complete. Once a week, you will have an online meeting and it's going to be completely free. Usually, it costs $75 per person. But guess what? This week, it's a gift for you, from us to you. So we're very, very excited about that. And I have one more thing to share with you. Dr. Darren Morton mentioned Dr. Michael Greger. And guess what? We're a big fan of Dr. Michael Greger as well. And he just recently wrote this book, How Not to Diet. And although we always know that it's not all about food, but food is something that we have every day. And I know some of you and perhaps have struggled with the word diet because all of the times we think, oh, we've got to go on a diet. Well, maybe it's the time for you to learn and live without a diet. And so we're going to be telling you tomorrow how you can get a handle of this book for free. So join us tomorrow. We're going to have another amazing speaker and an inspirational story for you to hear as well. I hope that you were blessed by the program tonight and you can join us tomorrow as well. If you've missed it or somebody else that you want to share with, please share. It's going to be on our Facebook page as well as the website. And one more thing, don't forget to join our health and wellness group at the community page, at the Facebook community page, sorry. We wait for you there where we're going to be sharing more information and ideas for the Health Week. Thank you for joining me. Have a good night.
The last one, I think. The last one? Not this.